last night at the Gabba. It was those Lions getting it done in the end in a hard-fought contest by 3 goals. This is our review of that game for Toolkit Depot. Toolkit Depot's Milwaukee Spend and Get is on now, and a lot of the damage was done in the first quarter, Kingy, where the Lions stormed out to kick 6-1 in the first term. From there, it was a pretty even contest. What are your first thoughts?
I think if you allow Brisbane to play their uncontested marking game and build the ball, they're just unbeatable. Their first quarter, they moved the ball at will, and they planned the game to perfection. They denied Essendon their slow, methodical, uncontested mark game. So they disarmed the Bombers and they were able to play their game. So they were always going to get that on the scoreboard, simple as that. So I thought it was great planning and execution of that plan. And then for whatever reason, and this has been Brisbane through the course of the season, they just coast. They get into a really comfortable brand of football, and it must frustrate the coach and probably frustrate the players a little bit that they have these lapses. They've had them quite regularly through the first 12 rounds of the season. Now, it hasn't really hurt them at any stage this year, but they've played comfortable football against teams they should really throttle, and teams that they know are going to take them to the wire and are quality teams. They've risen to the standard. They've risen and met that challenge. So this is clearly a mental problem for a team that's had tremendous success.
Yeah, I mean, that's the challenge, isn't it? When you've been and reached the highs that they have, the motivation factor to get yourself going, particularly when after the first quarter you think the game is going to be on your terms, which it was, just to mentally switch off and allow the opposition to get that momentum which they got. I couldn't believe the Bombers' stoppage numbers. I was completely two different styles in terms of the scoreboard, but the Bombers kicked 8 goals from stoppage up against that Brisbane midfield. So no Oscar McInerney, I get that, but with those names going through there, up against Essendon's, without Merritt, mind you, who's strangely gone to half-back, and we'll get to that shortly. They've kicked 8 goals to 2. On the flip side to that, Brisbane kicked 11 goals off turnover, and Essendon was still trying to play a certain way, which I think hurt them in the end. But do we need to give the Bombers a bit more credit than that, Kingy? I certainly didn't expect them to be in this game for as long as they were. With 10 minutes to go in the last quarter, scores are even. I thought it was a pretty impressive, resilient performance from a young group with 6 teenagers in it and 1 key defender. Yeah,
absolutely. We were last night on Fox talking about, there were probably no losers last night. I think Brad Scott would have walked away saying, gee, we found a way, and we found a group that was prepared to fight for the night. I thought Caldwell's third quarter was one of the special quarters for the year. Just forget the numbers, just sheer impact. I think he had 18 touches for the quarter, but it was all the clearance. It was all setting his team on a path to score. And once they played or embraced a chaotic game plan, they actually looked better than what they've been chipping the ball around uncontested marking. They embraced in the fight and looked terrific, and their forwards got an opportunity to compete. The first 15 minutes of the quarter, they were able to win 8 of the first 10 contests in their forward 50. Now, normally you lose those. Normally you're on the negative side of that because the opposition have numbers back, and it's just harder to win a ball than it is to defuse a problem in terms of being a defender versus an attacker. So they were awesome, and Caddy was a major part of that. But I wanted to just talk about, do they now have to look at this and say, you know what, why aren't we playing the chaotic brand of footy? Why aren't we playing with some freedom and some flair? Because it worked on the road against probably if not the best team in the comp, they're in the conversation.
Yeah, I think they'll get a lot of belief out of that, and part of it would have been the conditions probably a little bit as well, like really, really tricky conditions. The rain was just annoying for the majority of the night, which made it a bit more slippery, and then you are prone to play a bit more unpredictable, a bit more chaotic. Now, it did cost them, like they did, as I said, concede 11 goals off turnover, so there were some that just weren't on. But I love the way that their defenders defended. So to keep the Lions to that score after conceding 60-odd entries with no Mackay, no Reid, no one down there, no Ridley. It's a pretty good performance. I just like where they're going. I said this a couple of weeks ago. I got smashed after the Bulldogs game. I just like what the next 3 to 4, probably sooner than that, 1 to 2 to 3 years looks like at the Bombers, because they've got capital in the draft, they've got salary cap space, and they've got a few youngsters coming through that you go, wow, you can build this team around them. Merritt to halfback is, I don't know, it's not I know last night wasn't the first time he's done this, but saw him play against Port Adelaide at Marvel, and in the last quarter when the game was in the balance, he was the difference, and largely it was the possessions in the front half of the ground. I know you're a big advocate for the halfback, and I know you've spoken about that regularly, but would you be doing it with Zach Merritt and him winning the majority of his football in the back half versus the front half? Going into last night, 20 more inside 50s than any other of his teammates, and he's at half-back. I don't know if I want my skipper at half-back like Zach Merritt.
Well, it's the best position in footy. It's the most aggressive running spot in the game. I think you want your best ball user at half-back, not to defend. They're not going there to defend. They're going there to release and win centre-forward ball.
Kicked 6 goals in the first 2 rounds of the year, Merritt. He's kicked 2 since.
He's not a noted goal kicker, though. He has never been that.
But he's a noted score involvements player and a noted damage.
Rosie plays half-back.
Yeah,
probably the
Rosie they have the depth to be able to cover him in the midfield. The reason he's gone there is because if he's in there, then what are you doing with Wines and Drew and Horne-Francis and Butters? Like they had cover for that, and he was getting tagged. So that was the reason with Rosie. I'm not sure it's the same reason with Merritt. Game on the line, I just would have loved to have seen him in the centre bounce, inflicting damage in the front half.
Yeah, I think you have to trust Corbell. And Nick Barton is having some sort of a season. I think you've got to trust those guys that they can actually grab some response. It can't be Merritt all the time. Someone else has to stand up and say, okay, I'm going to help the captain on the path to winning.
So a lot more a long-term play, you think?
Not long-term. No, I think he's gone to half-back to have influence. I personally like it. I don't see the slows on that at all. I think we've got a new top 5 player in the comp in Hugh McCluggage. If you really closely look at his numbers, he's been thereabouts for probably 5 of the last 6 years and doesn't get the credit that he deserves. He's always in the All-Australian squad and always overlooked. So I think you've got to assess this game, the game that this guy plays differently. His maximum damage. I mean, again, last night he has an equal PB 12 score involvements. He's played almost 200 games of footy, and he's only done that 5 times. So I think that's the level of performance that it was. 13 inside 50s, over 40 possessions. Right now, he's Brisbane's best player.
Don't disagree. I've never seen a player find space like, well, I probably have, but his ability to find space, like 11 uncontested marks, he just bobs up in space the whole time, and a lot of it he's just a clever player. He's able to identify the turnover and able to identify the dangerous space and work his way into it. Huge work rate, big engine. He was awesome.
We showed some vision in the pre-game last night of the danger that Hugh possesses. He'll look around him, and when he's reversing, when he's backing back out of traffic or just getting out of pocket, out of congestion into little pockets, that's when he's at his most dangerous. And they just snoozed on him a few times. There was a bad one with Corbell in the third quarter. And Corbell he'd been huge, but he just let him get goal side by 10 or 12 metres and could never recover. This guy has to be treated as one of the top liners in the comp. He's never tagged. Now, I think that every team now has to say, look, you know what, we can't really stop Lachie Neale doing what he does at clearance. They have to now put time into Hugh McCluggage.
Yeah, the Sardis one as well from stoppage late where he kicked that left foot ball inside 50 and allowed him goal side as well was a bad one. Where do you have him? Let us know. 0433 98 11 16. And Bombers fans, let us know your thoughts. You would have to be proud of that performance, and that's what you want from a rebuilding squad who had some challenges and adversity. And I mean, even Durham and Gresham were hurt last night. So Durham's playing deep forward because he has that ankle injury. I'm nervous that's a syndesmosis, and not sure what was wrong with Gresham, but he was clearly hampered as well. So pretty courageous from those two to stay out there and find a way to impact.
The game can't take on everything. I understand you can't take on every cause, but the hip drop tackle where you tackle from behind and the full weight of the tackler's body goes onto the back of the legs of the player with the ball. And this is a byproduct of us having to take players to ground because they're so strong and are able to get rid of the ball by hand. This needs a greater discussion than what we're going to give it this morning. But if you blow the whistle quicker and pay quicker, holding the ball up style calls, you won't need the hip drop tackle. So we've got a whole heap of work to do here because this is one of the great dangers in the game at the moment. How many syndesmosis injuries
Yeah,
have we had over the last 2
so
years?
many, and you're seeing them at training as well. So you know I follow the NRL closely, King. You know it's one of my great passions. Are you allowed? You're not allowed to do it in the NRL, are you?
Not allowed to do it.
The hip drop tackle.
Not allowed to do it in the NFL, and not allowed to do it in the NRL because too many star factor players are just losing 6-7 week blocks. Some are getting surgery. It's a major issue. I know we're being a bit flippant with it, but there's so many unintended consequences of not umpiring immediately, not immediately blowing whistles, not immediately paying free kicks against. So it's a greater discussion. It's for another time, but we lose another player to a syndesmosis injury.
Things got a bit testy for us in the Channel 7 box last night over the Archie and Redmond incident. So Luke Hodge was pretty quick to point out that Archie allowed Redmond to come back and pretty much access the mark running back with the flight of the ball and almost pulled out of the contest off the back of Alex Pearce and Justin Longmuir's comments over that. I was sympathetic of Archie because I just know what's going through players' minds and how difficult it is in that moment to go, if I go here and I get him high and he's knocked out, firstly, I haven't exercised my duty of care to the player and I'm going to face 3 weeks on the sidelines. Nick Revolt was the opposite. He said, look, he's got to go and we're in real trouble if this is what the game is now demanding of the players. Where do you sit on it and the debate that is going to rage off the back of how hard we've made it for our players to assess contacting marking contests?
Well, I think we saw during the week, if your sole focus is the football, you're okay. And if it's anything outside of that, you're in trouble.
But you can't really protect. So Archie can't really go and turn his body to the side. He almost has to open himself up front on and spoil the ball. And then he'll be okay. I'm with you. But then he's at risk of just, it's unnatural to give yourself full open access to your front. We used to turn our bodies, didn't we, in that situation?
So how many times does this happen a game, do you think?
Oh, not many.
So I think it's a small price to pay personally. I mean,
so you're happy with what he did, or?
He can go the football. He can go the ball, and the game will protect him, as we've learnt during the week. Now, we're going to get it wrong every now and then.
Because Longmuir said
some players.
If Pearce didn't go, he'll be heavily criticised by the media. Now, I said to Hodgie, we're not criticising Archie here. So there's a complete overreaction from Justin on that. I think we're all understanding of the difficulties for players right now. And no one's I don't think anyone will show it during the week and say that you should have gone. It's just an interesting debate to have of what we're asking our current players how to play.
Yeah, and it's up to us to just bite our tongue and say, okay, he's in a difficult situation and he's exercised some level of caution. Now, that's a smart thing to do. I mean, why would you risk being out for 3 weeks for the sake of one mark? He's probably unlikely to take it anyway.
Yeah, and I think they were 6 goals up at the time. Yeah. Like, it's a round 12 game against a team they're going to beat. Maybe a different story if it's a grand final and it's late in the third term and everything's on the line, then I think he would have gone in that moment and taken that risk. But look, I think personally he did the right thing, but there was a bit of debate on that. Where do you sit? Let us know.
Yeah, I think the game of caddy is something that we've discussed many times this year.
Yeah.
And being out there in pre-season, I kept saying I haven't seen a big boy, a young, big, key position, tall forward, work as hard as what he does. He just continuously runs and makes a point of getting to every possible contest, session in, session out. This is not a game day only exercise. He does this at training. He's a special player to watch. Now, you hope he gets the rewards. It doesn't always work out that way.
No, I think he will, though.
He's starting to get him, isn't he?
Yeah, because of that athletic profile you speak about, but just the competitive nature and his want to win. Like last night in the call, I said he's 20. He's not even 20 yet. He turns 20 in July.
Yeah.
And you just go back and it's hard to look at the recruiters, but everyone is looking for a key position forward, and he's picked 10. And the teams that overlooked him for running types, and even the Gold Coast with Walter as the academy bid. I mean, who's going to be better, Walter or Caddy? North Melbourne
have to take the academy.
Yeah, well, and which is what they did, and I think Walter's going to be a very good player. But North with the running player in McKercher and Dersman that they went with, Hawthorn went with the Wizard Watson. Adelaide went with Curtin. They've probably okay in the tall forward stakes, but. I mean, that one is going to be a draft to watch, I reckon, when 9 teams overlooked him.
Yeah, and it's a risk to take the key position tall. I've mentioned this before. I think it's the biggest. It's probably the biggest error the Kangaroos have made in the last 5 years, 6 years, because
that draft there,
to not draft someone to assist Nick Larkey has had flow-on effects. They've had to give up this year's first rounder to reach at a player at 25 last year or 23, whatever it was, and that effectively could be pick 3 or pick 2. Who knows what pick that'll be in the draft? So this guy, where he was, would have been a steal in hindsight, but you can't do the draft in hindsight. I get that. But let's just talk about what Essendon have got and what they can work with. I mean, Kako still shows signs. There's little bits there. There's
little things.
There's a lead last night where he actually marks the ball. He missed the goal, I reckon.
First quarter.
And he did a little stutter step that threw Dane Zorko out immediately. He wasn't sure whether he was coming back at the ball or resetting, and he just got in behind him straight away. And I thought that's a move of a player that has done that 1,000 times and understands the situation. So, look, there's little things you see with these kids and you think, yep, no, they're going places.
Kingy had Tom Barras. Thoughts?
Well, he's got some work to do, hasn't he?
He's still in the gun, I think.
He's still in the gun. I'll tell you, we're in the gun on the text machine here. We're copping a little bit.
For what?
Why do we can the game? Why do you and I can the game, and the game's never been as good as what it is right now from Rowan? That's fair enough, but we're here to talk about different facets. We just can't blow smoke every day of the week.
Yeah, we get a lot of feedback off the text messages. I don't tend to take them too personally or
nice underarms. Maybe change from fireball to softball from Boothie in Elvington. That's a bit rough, Boothie. Hope your day gets better.
I just never ever worry about the text machine in this building. Send your thoughts through, and we'll get to some of them. But
mute a couple of these, Cornsey.
But not all of them. I had Charlie Curnow. Now, Charlie Curnow's going fine. Fine. He kicked 3. I just want him to kick a big bag. He's actually been in good goal kicking form. He's kicked 3+ in 5 out of his last 6 games. So he's not the issue at the Blues. But I'd love for him to see him go large, like Hogan goes large, like Jezza goes large. It's been a while since he's kicked a genuine bag. Maybe that isn't too far away. In the gun is for Grays.com, Australia's leading online auction marketplace. I'll start and I'm going to go with Freo selection in the gun. And not because they're playing 2 rucks, but if you play a ruck that is not fit and he can't run out the game and you are forced to play him on the interchange bench as long as you did when Sean Darcy last played against Collingwood and it was 34 minutes of game time in the first half because he's not fit, then you're in the gun. So you can play 2 ruck, no worries. But if one of them's not fit and if he's a liability for you because of his lack of fitness, I don't know where the fitness has come from, Sean Darcy. Last time I saw him play, he couldn't cover the ground. He's now had 2 weeks off with a knee injury. Now he's back in with no extra. He hasn't played waffle. He's just straight back in. So in the gun, if you can't get through and if you are selecting injured players just because the club has made such a big commitment to them. So Freo and the selection panel, you're in the gun.
Well, I like it for Grace. That was a real strong one. I'm not really comfortable putting this guy in the gun because I really like the player. I like the person. But the footy world, I mean, the hottest topic in footy right now is James Sicily.
Do you feel like it's been a pile-on or not?
I do. I feel like it's been strong, right? It's been overs on a short window of his career that's slightly below par. The rest of his career has been unbelievable. So I can understand why everyone at Hawthorn and even the Hawthorn fan base would be supporting him because he's been so good. But I guess we're just looking for a change, whether it's a change in output, a change in effective kicking, decision-making, whatever it is, or is it a change of role? So I think the footy world are looking at probably 4 or 5 magnets more than most this weekend, and he's probably the number one magnet discussed on all review shows over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I feel like it's been not an easy target, but just it's been a repetitive target.
Well, he hasn't done anything to get himself off the charts, has he? So, well, I'm hoping that's tonight. We're all hoping that's tonight because we want to see great footy, and this guy delivers great footy.
I thought I saw. Now maybe I'm maybe I'm watching it close, but I thought his third quarter, I think it was, he took 4 intercept marks in the third quarter last week, and I thought, gee, that's a positive for me on some genuine one-on-one contests, and I thought maybe there's been a slight move in his form just in that one quarter alone, and maybe he can build on that. So what a game, though.
Oh, yeah.
What a game this is tonight.
Can't wait for tonight. There's some games you look forward to more than
I
others.
just want a bit of angry Hawthorn, bit of nasty, just a bit of
They've been a
in
bit
your
too
face. I think so.
Yeah,
I
they
think
have.
they're a bit nice. We're a bit of a nasty edge. I don't know who that is, whether that is Sicily, whether that gets him going, or whether he's not feeling comfortable because of his form to do that. But is it Ginnivan? Is it Watson?
I'll tell you who it's
is
got to
it?
be. I'll tell you who it's got to be. The man they gave number 3. It's got to be Newcombe.
yeah.
I mean, he's their bull. He's their anger in the middle, and he's just been a fraction off. I don't reckon he's been at his brilliant best of last year.
I agree with that.
And their contested and clearance game is not where you want it to be. So I'm looking forward to seeing if he can grab this game by the throat.
Yep, Collingwood red hot favourites because they bring back more Pendlebury, Hill, Schultz and Sidebottom. Maynard's injured and there's been some players that have lost their place in the side, obviously, with those names coming back in. Impey is back in, he's a big in for the Hawks. And
Is also in the gun.
who?
The Morrow is in the gun. It's not getting a lot of good feedback on the text
I don't
machine
think I've
here.
ever eaten a Morrow, ever, ever in my life. I'm not sure I know what it tastes like. But I'm a big fan of the old gold. The old gold gets a bad rap.
Old gold.
The old gold gets a bad rap. And I come in and always left is the 2 old golds and the favourites, and I just swoop on them quicker than you would believe.